So I'm going to start on a scientific basis. You have the three laws of thermodynamics, right? The first law of thermodynamics is energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy always was. Well, that sounds like what the Catholics told me about God. There is no birth of God, and therefore there will be no death. God always was, and God always will be. Now that's bullshit if you think it's an invisible man up in the clouds, but if you think of God as energy, well, energy always was, and energy always will be, because the first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. The second law of thermodynamics is for a spontaneous process, the entropy of the universe increases. Now, I have a hard time with this one, even though it makes sense. It actually makes a ton of sense. But in terms of thermodynamics, how can you make entropy apply? Entropy basically says, well, as soon as you add one more, variable to the damn equation, there's an infinite different possibilities. And so the more variables that you add, the more entropy, the more, variables, the more craziness, the more chaos, the more. And that's true, but how can you contain that? How can you deal with that? And that's when you start from a vacuum. We don't literally start from a vacuum. The vacuum, we've already, if there was a beginning, that would have been the vacuum. But once you add one molecule, two molecules, if you have five molecules in a vacuum, the amount of different, ways that it can bounce and hit into each other and react against each other is so much more than if you just had one molecule. But we're not just talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 molecules. We've had like billions of molecules just sitting there interacting with each other since the beginning of time. So then that means the entropy of the universe has got to be almost nearly infinite. Almost, nearly infinite. Like what the hell is actually going on Earth? What is actually going on this planet? The trees are making a bunch of oxygen. We're breathing in that oxygen. We're spitting out the carbon dioxide. They breathe in the carbon dioxide. But then you got hydrogen. What the hell is hydrogen just doing over there in the corner? The third law of thermodynamics is a perfect crystal at 0 Kelvin has zero entropy. Okay, so then that's the baseline, right? That's your control. A perfect crystal at 0 Kelvin has zero entropy. What is 0 Kelvin? I mean, that sounds like it's very, very cold. Probably, right? Negative 273 degrees Celsius. Absolute zero. The theoretical point at which matter has the least amount of internal energy in all thermal motion, including the vibrations of atoms and molecules, stops. So where on the planet is it negative 273 degrees Celsius? And what is that in motherfucking Fahrenheit? Talk to me in my language. Talk to me in my language. Zero Kelvin in Fahrenheit is negative 459 degrees. Is that possible? Is there anywhere on this planet that's negative 459 degrees? How cold is it on Mars? Can I remember that? No, I should write that down. Negative 459, huh? So let's see. We're just starting on a scientific basis, right? So we're reading the Bible, but I'm not just this Christy-ass, brainwashed lunatic. I'm actually pretty strict atheist, to be honest with you. But I believe in the great spirit of ultimate goodness, and being a cultural Christian, I adopted goodness as my way of being, and I think that's probably the main problem with, that's why I've had the goddamn roller coaster ride of a life that I've had. Negative 459. Okay, how cold is it on Mars? It's not at negative 85 degrees. That's not even near Kelvin. When does it ever get to 0 Kelvin? Is there anywhere where it's 0 Kelvin? 0 Kelvin is the only place where there's no entropy. So if we can never go back to 0 entropy, then it's just going to be a wild, wild west forever and ever and ever. It's just going to keep on going to be a wild, wild west. It starts out a wild, wild, chaotic west, a chaotic, insane West, and then it just gets on more and more chaotic and wilder. More and more Van Wilder. How cold is it on Mars? How cold is it on Pluto, which is not a planet? Okay, we're getting closer. That's negative 387 degrees Fahrenheit. Still not absolute zero. Where in the universe is Carmen Sandiego is absolute zero. The lowest theoretical temperature is defined as negative 459 degrees, 0.67 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 273 degrees Celsius. While scientists have gotten very close, nothing in the observable universe has ever reached or is known to exist at absolute zero. Fucking great. Fucking great. Fucking great. So that means we'll never get back to the vacuum. Life will never be simple. We'll never have a nice little, vacuum with 1, 2, 3, 4 molecules. It's always just going to be entropy, times a million. It's always going to be entropy, exponential entropy. It's going to be entropy exponentially. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's going to be entropy exponentially. Yeah, give me a more detailed. The Boomerang Nebula, it's even too hot. While not at absolute zero, the Boomerang Nebula is one of the coldest places in the universe, with temperatures just a few tenths of a degree above absolute zero. Well, fuck, that's close enough. A few tenths of a degree? It's like, it's not negative 459 degrees, it's actually negative 450 degrees. That's fucking close enough. Boomerang Nebula? Where is this Boomerang Nebula? Oh, I got hope now. Okay. All right, science. I won't have to turn to the book of Revelations. Boomerang Nebula. And what I want to talk about with this, live stream actually is Moses is a genocidal maniac. When Moses was freeing the Hebrew slaves away from Egyptian oppression, he very much was a sympathetic person. But then as soon as he gets out, he's got 400,000 Hebrews that's free. He married Zipporah, and he immediately started killing the Midianites. He immediately started doing genocides. Why? Because you got 400,000 people, right? They're saying he wandered out in the desert for 40 years. And then they complained, right? They complained about the promised land, and then God smited them. And then in Kings, over and over again, it says that Lord looked at Israel and disapproved of their wickedness. So if God himself can turn his back on the fucking, Israelites, why can't America turn their fucking back on Israelites when they're doing genocides? It's like, hey, love it or leave it, even when Israel's doing wrong, we're still going to fucking back them no matter what. And frankly, I was sick of the Iraq war, so it's like, when does America stop fucking killing brown people? When the fuck does our country just stop killing brown people? Talk about being addicted. It's not addicted to cocaine. It's not addicted to oil. It's addicted to killing brown babies, brown bodies on the screen. There goes another fucking family. And when you're walking with the people, you better watch out. You better not shout. Because Santa Claus is coming. Boomerang Nebula is a star system evolving towards the planetary nebula phase. Is it close by? That's really what I want to understand. It's in the constellation Centaurus. 1979, Wagner Glass discovered this nebula. It looks nice. The Hubble telephone, it looks like, it's a nice little, like a bow tie. So the Boomerang Nebula. Okay, that's where, that's where absolute zero is, and that's where we can begin to study life before entropy exponentially takes a wrecking ball to every goddamn conceptual thing everywhere. What's the point of calculus? You can figure out physics, motion, dynamics, engineering, control systems, economics, optimization, and computer science when it comes to algorithms and graphics. There's a lot to calculus. It's the mathematical study of continuous change, offering tools to model and analyze systems where quantities change, such as in physics, engineering, and economics. The three laws of motion. Well, first, an object at rest will stay at rest until an object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by a force. It stays in motion forever and ever unless gravity slows it down, wind resistance and gravity slows it down. So if a thing stays, I guess it's like in space, right? When you just kind of push a ball, just kind of like it's just going to keep on floating on out there forever and ever and ever. It'd be cool to do a spacewalk. Force equals mass times acceleration. That makes sense, right? The force, if you're going to punch a thing, it's not just the weight of the fist, but it's also the speed of the fist. The speed of the fist multiplied by the mass of the fist equals force. So I guess in a way, the bigger your hand is, right, the bigger your punch can be, theoretically, right? Theoretically. And then the acceleration, how much you can rubber band it, right? How much you can just pop, pop, pop. And of course, there's Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Of course, the third law of thermodynamics, I already mentioned the thermodynamics. All right, good. Now that we got the science out of the way, let's get to Moses. So I just watched Exodus, and they say Jesus is the greatest story ever told. No, Moses is the greatest story ever told. And Moses likely ordered actions against the Midianites in Numbers 31 that fit modern genocide definitions, killing men, non-virgin women, and male children, sparing only virgin girls. Biblically, it's framed as divine vengeance for idolatry, not genocide. And it didn't wipe out all the Midianites as they reappear later. Context shows such wars were common then, complicating modern labels. That doesn't help. That doesn't really help. But where are the Midianites mentioned in the Bible after Numbers 31? Well, after Numbers 31, the Midianites appear in Judges 6 through 8, oppressed in Israel, defeated by Gideon. In Judges, they're oppressed in Israel. Was this after the genocide or before? Psalm 83:9, prayer recalling their defeat. Isaiah 10:26, historical defeat. 66 camels bringing tribute. And Habakkuk 3:7, land trembling in prophecy. They persist historically and shift to symbolic roles in later text. The Midianites appear in Judges 6 through 8, oppressed in Israel. Do I want to read? Let's check out Psalm 83:9. Just, for shits and giggles. Psalm 83:9. What's it say? Do to them as thou didst to Midian, as to Sisera and Jabin at the river Kishon, who were destroyed at Ender, who became dung for the ground. Make their nobles like Oreb and Zeb, all their princes like Zeba and Zalmunna, who said, let us take possession for ourselves of the pastures of God. Well, that doesn't really seem like the Midians appear. They just they're written about, and they're talking about either the defeat or they're talking about the historical defeat. Camels bringing tributes. And then oppressed in Israel in Judges 6 to 8. That's too long. I'm not going to. They were oppressed in Israel, but Numbers is before Judges, right? Numbers is the third book. No, the fourth book. So you got Genesis, Exodus, and then you have Leviticus, and then you got Numbers, and then you got Deuteronomy. This is a part of the Torah. So Judges isn't a part of the Torah. Joshua? What is this Joshua crap? 2 Chronicles? Kings? Samuel? Oh my God. A bunch of bullshit is what it looks like to me. A bunch of bullshit. You hear me, Bible? You're bullshit. Besides the Midianites, what other tribes and nations did Moses and the Hebrews attack? Moses and the Hebrews, according to the biblical account in the Old Testament, primarily in the books of Exodus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, whereas Leviticus engaged in conflicts with several tribes and nations during their journey from Egypt to the Promised Land. These encounters were often framed as divinely sanctioned battles to secure territory or eliminate threats. Below is a list of some of the key tribes and nations aside from the Midianites that Moses and the Hebrews attacked or fought against. Number one, the Amalekites. The Amalekites. The Amalekites. The Amalekites were a nomadic tribe that attacked the Israelites shortly after their exodus from Egypt near Rephidim. Exodus 17, 8-16. Moses instructed Joshua to lead the fight against them while he prayed atop a hill with Aaron and Hur. How fucking awesome, huh? He's sitting there praying with Aaron and Hur while Joshua's fighting. The Israelites prevailed and God declared perpetual enmity against Amalek. That doesn't sound like God. And me, the Lord God, I will always hate you sons of bitches for what you did to the Israelites. The Hebrews are very sympathetic when they're the slaves. When they're the slaves in Egypt, they're very sympathetic. But as soon as you got 400,000 people wandering the desert, and then they're going to try to take the land of Canaan, they're going to try to take somebody else's land. Either A, Moses and the Hebrews should have overthrew Pharaoh and took Egypt, or B, find a land that had nobody else on it. Those are the two good options for the Hebrews. But they got free, and then they said, well, we're going to Canaan because of something in the Bible, and then they had to get back to Canaan no matter what. Canaan, the Philistines, Canaan. Well, you got the Canaanites and the Philistines. The Philistines and the Canaanites, they live in Canaan. The Canaanite king of Arad attacked the Israelites as they approached the Negev. The Israelites, with God's approval, fought back and destroyed their cities, naming the place Hormah. So the Canaanites of Arad, the Amalekites, the Amorites, Shihon and Og. The Israelites clashed with two Amorite kings east of the Jordan River, Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan. The Moabites, indirectly via the Midian alliance, while the Moabites themselves were not directly attacked by Moses in a military campaign, partly due to God's command in Deuteronomy 2:9, not to harass Moab. They were involved in a scheme with the Midianites to seduce the Israelites into idolatry and immorality. Numbers 25, 1-3. This led to God's judgment on the Israelites and a subsequent command to attack the Midianites. Numbers 31, with Moab implicated indirectly. Then the Edomites. Conflict avoided. The Edomites, descendants of Esau, refused the Israelites' passage through their land. Esau, I thought Jacob and Esau, Jacob had his blessing of, and then Esau, the descendants of Esau, they're going to war later on. I mean, that's so crazy. It's almost like the Shawnee and the Delaware. They used to be brothers. Or they look at the Delaware, the Lenape as their grandfather tribe. They were brothers. And then, a couple years on down the road, then they're just perpetual enemies. Though tensions rose, Moses avoided direct conflict per God's instructions and took a longer route around Edom. Numbers 21:4. These conflicts primarily occurred during the wilderness wanderings and the approach to Canaan, as the Israelites sought to establish themselves in the land promised to them. The narratives often emphasize divine command and the theological significance of these battles, portraying them as part of the Israelites' mission to claim their inheritance. If you're interested in more details about any specific encounter, let me know. Well, let me think about it, Grok. The Amalekites, the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Moabites, and the Edomites. So as soon as Moses got out of Egypt, he just started genociding everybody, just started killing everybody that was in his way. When they were slaves, they were very much sympathetic. They were being oppressed. They were being abused. They were the humble. They were the lowly. They were second-class citizens. Once they broke free of the bondage, once they got their exodus, then you got 400,000 assholes trying to steal some land that other people already lived on, and then other people, they keep running into these other tribes. It's almost like the Hebrews have been genocidal, from the fucking beginning. From the fucking beginning. When they were slaves, I like Exodus. I like Moses. He does, save the day. Let my people go. But then they just go downhill after that. And that's a goddamn shame. You know what I mean?